We've had non-humans point out how barbaric humans are or can be. And then we see our heroes kind of defend their actions over and over. So this idea of the mirror universe showing what humanity might be if we didn't have reason and compassion and empathy and all of those humanist values. Like, yes, we aren't great all the time, but those guardrails are kind of necessary to keep us from turning into that.
Perhaps I could use this as an excuse to go to those far-off planets with little polka-dotted people if necessary, and be able to talk about love, war, nature, God, sex, all those things that go to make up the excitement of the human condition.
I'm Captain James Kirk.
Spock.
Your move, Captain.
Jim Kirk of the Enterprise.
What's going on? I'm James Kirk. These people are my friends and my shipmates. Leave my crew alone.
Out of the question.
How about that?
James Kirk.
It fits like a glove, Captain.
Oh, the bonehead ideas.
Gentlemen, I'm Captain James Kirk. Get out of my chair. Get out of it now.
My greetings and felicitations, Captain. So good of you and your officers to, drop in. Absolutely smashing.
Jolan True, everyone, and welcome to Humanist Trek. It's a Star Trek podcast about the humanism in Star Trek. I'm Sarah Ray.
And I'm Allie Ashmead.
And hey, I want to remind everybody, go pick up some Humanist Trek merch at our website, humanisttrek.com. We've got t-shirts and notebooks and mugs and all kinds of cool stuff. So check it out. All of your purchases, of course, help support the show. This week, Allie, we're reviewing Mirror Mirror.
Yeah.
I want to say right up front, I'm pretty open about this in nerd circles. I don't particularly like Mirror Universe storyline. It's just not my thing. And so we know this carries forward, right, through like Deep Space Nine and beyond. At least, thank goodness, Next Gen didn't do it. But that was part of the reason why I had a hard time, I think, getting into Discovery. And it's weird because I ended up enjoying Discovery, but like just the thought of the mirror universe. And I think it's because I didn't really like the Deep Space Nine episodes there. I think that kind of killed it for me. But so I went into this with, the mirror universe. I kind of remember, the way they look differently and, like that kind of stuff from original Trek.
Yeah,
but I was not looking forward to it. I will tell you that.
Honestly, it's one of those things that they do in a lot of sci-fi series. Is like if you just about every one of them have had this type of mirror episode. And again, I think Stargate, they did it too. They did it a lot. And it's always, I mean, scientifically, I don't know if it's not possible. I mean, I'm not going to.
Right.
And so I always wonder though, like, is the other me as hot as they like because they always do this. They always make the other universe. Everybody is either evil or way hotter. And I'm just like, that's just one of those things too that they always do. And I found that of course everyone was evil and hot at the same time in this mirror universe. So I don't know. It's
interesting.
It's one of those things where like it's part of that unknown thing that we don't know if it's possible or not. It's a theory. It's unproven, so they love something
fun to think about. Yeah,
and who knows if that's even a thing?
Right. Right.
It does get old.
I mean, there are theories now that there are many verses, right? The multiverse theory, and that Family Guy did this really well. But the idea that you flip through them like you're flipping through a channel, and there's an infinite combination possibility of universes out there, right? Like, and
what's that? Infinite diversity, infinite combinations.
Yeah, right.
So, like, I don't know.
Imagine that's real. How like fucking crazy that is. That there might be millions of other universes. Yeah, just like, but slightly different from ours.
Yeah, a bunch of different versions of you and all of the possibilities that you could be. And it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah. Well, let's take a momentary pause for you and I to put on our fake goatees as we step into Star Trek, the original series, Season 2, Episode 4, Mirror, mirror.
Sir, contact with an object. It's moving toward us. No visual contact yet.
Deflectors, full intensity.
Sulu, yes, get anything on your scanners?
It's coming at light speed.
Collision course. Visual contact.
Anything, over?
All wavelengths dominated by ionization effects, sir.
All engines full stop.
This opening is very different from what I think we've been getting so far, right? There's no space flyby. Like, we are just right on planet, paint the soundstage walls purple.
Right. Trying to mine somebody else's shit as usual.
Yeah. And it was, I don't know, it was such a fast cut in. It was jarring to me. Like, I had to back it up and make sure that, like, what, you know, because sometimes I'll go and pull audio from an episode and then it leaves the little playback needle at that point of the, I've thought, damn, did this start in the middle of the episode? But no, it was really jarring to me to just jump right into that.
Yeah, sometimes I actually like it, though. It's just a nice break from the usual.
Yeah. So we're on this planet, Kirk, Scotty, McCoy, and Uhura, and they're talking to these three men, and there's thunderclaps and lightning flashing. So they're trying to get the dilithium, but these people have a very strong ethic, and they're concerned they don't want any of their dilithium being used to harm others. And in fact, the leader says they would be willing to allow their entire race to die out to preserve this peacefulness of who they are.
But they can't control, like, what they do with it. Like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Which is crazy. So.
Yeah. Kirk calls up the Enterprise to find out what's going on with the weather. And these ion storms seem to not only be affecting the planet on the surface, but also up around the Enterprise. So the plan is to return to the ship, wait out the storm, and come back to continue negotiation. Tharn, the leader of the council, cautions them not to expect their answer to change and adds that they're strong enough. You could just take whatever you want. If you wanted our dilithium, you could just take it. We couldn't stop you. But Kirk's like, yeah, see, our ethics wouldn't allow us to do that to you. So, and please keep that in mind as you consider your decision. As they beam up, thunder and lightning again, cut up to the transporter room, and they're kind of, phasing in and out, transporting in and out.
I think Spock gets to the transporter room, and the poor guy that's controlling it, he's like, we're having a little trouble here. I think there was a power surge, and then they sort of materialized and they left. And then the next thing we know, we see them materialize. Mm-hmm. They're dressed completely different than when they left the Enterprise. And Spock looks a little different, too.
Before we talk about the visual differences here, I really liked the transition from Prime Universe to Mirror Universe being that like horizontal flip back and forth. Mm-hmm. Such a simple effect to drop between scenes, or shots. But it was very effective in saying okay, we're flipping now to the Mirror Universe.
To get our mind ready to wrap our head around what we're about to see.
So Spock's got himself a nice goatee.
Can I just say, he looks really good. He looks really good in this.
Do you like him better with the goatee?
I do, and I don't know why. I do. Uh-huh. And he looked particularly dashing and a little bit evil, but not really. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I did like it. Everybody else looked the same except for the clothes, but he was the most significant change.
Right. And all of the women were wearing a crop top uniform. Mm-hmm. And then Uhura's abs in that crop top uniform.
She looked so good.
I'm like, so why? Good.
And it's really cool to see, they really didn't show. I'm just shocked at how much skin they show in Star Trek. Yeah. I remember they did, but it's just this was late 60s. They didn't show a lot of skin on TV. So,
you know what else they don't do very often on TV in the late 60s? Salute like Hitler.
Oh my God. I about fell out of my chair.
I remembered this. I knew it was coming, and I hated every time it happened.
So they do this hit your chest once, and then that straight hand out that looks like Heil Hitler.
Yep.
That was bothersome to see it.
Yeah. No, I did not like it at all. Kirk looks around trying to make sense of all this, but he also has to quickly adapt and start acting like he belongs there. Spock asks for a mission update, no change. Military capability? None. So he has Sulu line up a phaser barrage on all Hulkan cities.
They're about to kill everyone.
They're about to kill everyone. And then quickly turns to scold Kyle for not compensating for the ion storm as well as Spock thinks he should have at the transporter controls. Kyle tries to defend his actions, but it's no use. The security goons hold him back while Spock takes an agonizer device from his belt and holds it against Kyle's chest, and he screams in pain and slumps to the floor as electric shock jolts through his body.
And I'm sure that Kirk was like, really wanted to do something, but he could not give away the fact that they didn't belong. And he kind of gestured to the others to be quiet, to not say anything.
Yeah. There's a couple of different ways that plays out through this episode. Sometimes he's really good at not tipping his hand that we don't belong here. And other times he's a blatant idiot about it. Uhura blanches at all this. She responds like, you just mentioned that Kirk wanted to, wanted to have done something. And we see that play out in Uhura's face as she's got this like, oh God, and turns her head away so that she doesn't have to watch it. And we're taken to theme with a close up on Kirk looking really fucking confused. After the theme, we get a captain's log remarking on these changes to the ship and crew. Kyle is back on his feet and still trying to clear his name, and that prompts Spock to ask Kirk if they feel any abnormal effects due to the unusual beam up. And Kirk says yes, actually, and instructs McCoy to check them all out and check out the transporter circuits too, Scotty. Out in the hallway, a red shirt walks by and Hitler salutes at Kirk. And the rest of the away team are really itching to talk about what's happened to them. But this isn't the time or the place to have that conversation. So on the walk down to sickbay, several other crewmen salute, and Kirk starts to salute back, and that felt even worse to me. Like, I know you got to play the part, but this is our hero.
Even if it was half-assed, he did give a half-assed salute. Just, I know it was to stay alive, but you know what I mean? Because these people are evil.
Yeah,
they're the evil ones, the evil version of them.
Did you notice the casting for the Mirror Universe crew people? It looked to me like they went down to Jocks R Us and got the most jacked linebackers they could find.
Okay.
These were like some big and muscular dudes roaming the hallways.
Big. They looked huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess maybe they just wanted to portray that whole scary evil.
Yeah, right. Right. It's a show of strength. So sickbay is the location of our "this is the Enterprise, but it's not our Enterprise" conversation. McCoy points out a spot on the table where he spilled acid a year prior. He's like, "This is sickbay, but it's not my sickbay. Like, so this is not our Enterprise."
Everything's duplicated or almost duplicated.
Kirk kind of describes what the transporter malfunction, they believe it to be, kind of felt like. He says he remembers seeing their Enterprise for just a moment, but then they dematerialized again, and when they came back, they were here, wherever here is.
So, I mean, that was quite sciencey of Kirk to be the one to say, hey, we're in a parallel universe.
Yeah. Do you think they work this out really quickly, that the power surge Kyle mentioned is probably behind all this, and that they must have been switched to a parallel universe? And of course, if they're here, then where are their counterparts? They must be on our Enterprise. Do you feel like that they came to all of those conclusions too quickly?
Yeah, a lot quicker than they normally would. Like this. Yeah, so normally they would be oblivious.
It would take most of the episode to,
Exactly, until half. That's what I'm saying. It's like super sciencey of you, Kirk, to even come up with that shit.
Yeah.
But yeah. But I guess they had to move it forward in order to
have an episode.
Yeah, and to really highlight the differences in the parallels and
Right. The next move here really telegraphs just how deeply set the Federation values are. What about the Hulkans? Sulu's about to rain down phasers on them, and we can't let that happen. So Kirk has Scotty go down to phaser control and sabotage the system, but make it look like the ion storm took them out. And be careful, because they might be monitoring our communications.
He says to scramble their frequencies and just use them for private messages. So he tells Uhura to go down to her post on the bridge and find out, what does Starfleet Command actually want to do with these people, and just so if he can figure out if he's got any options. But she's kind of scared.
Yeah, she hesitates.
But Kirk says, you're the only one who can do it.
Yeah.
And I did give Kirk a hard time last episode because I felt like he would have barked orders at her.
Uh-huh.
But he actually gave her encouragement. He's like, you're the only one who can do this. And that I'm right behind you.
Meanwhile, he and McCoy have a whole desk piled with floppy disks to review. To try
they got time.
Right. We're going to try to learn something about this universe. Do you remember how long it took to access those old floppies? It'd take them forever.
Yeah, and you could hear them
spinning
up and yeah. Good times. Can you believe we've gotten so far from that?
I feel so old just talking about it.
Because nobody else I know remembers that shit. Nobody younger than me.
No,
in my
of course
life,
not. No.
In my life remembers a floppy.
Yeah.
No.
Those were the days. Up on the bridge, Sulu and Chekhov are lining up for their shot when Uhura arrives on the turbolift, and they both turn to look at her as she walks to her station.
Now, granted, she's gorgeous, but this whole scene was problematic. But I guess, again, they wanted to portray this universe as like the utmost evil.
Right.
And so Sulu stops what he's doing and goes over to her station. Everybody's looking on to see what Sulu's going to do. How is he going to harass the woman? And he basically sexually harasses her.
Can we also talk about this unfortunate prosthetic on Sulu's head?
Yes.
It looks like somebody it's supposed to look like he's got a scar from his chin to his temple or something,
Yeah.
But what it looks like is modeling clay smooshed up onto his face.
And that's probably what it is. It's it's very bad.
Yeah.
But it's like a scab or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's got a scar on the side of his face, and he's basically sexually harassing Uhura.
Big props to Uhura, though, because she slaps his hand away hard, just as Kirk enters. She didn't take his shit.
She had her hand back. She was going to lay one into him. She didn't, I guess, as Kirk came in.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was going to slap the fuck out of him.
And everyone falls over themselves when Kirk comes in. They jump up to Hitler salute. I just don't like it. Kirk asks for some a communication status, and Uhura reports no storm damage. All stations report normal. So communicating that the change hasn't happened yet. And then quietly says, you're ordered to annihilate these people unless they comply. No alternative. Sulu has phasers locked and loaded for target A, but Kirk tells him to hold. Down in phaser control, Scott's cocked blocked by a red shirt. No access without authorization from Security Chief Sulu.
So he's like, damn it, I know I'm never going to make it in there. So he has to call Kirk on his private channel saying, I can't do what you asked. I can't disable the phasers. So Kirk's going to have to think of something else to stall killing everyone on the planet.
Spock rolls onto the bridge and he's like, why the fuck haven't we killed anyone yet? And Kirk asks Uhura to contact the Hulkan Council to talk. And Spock's like, since when do we talk? Kirk tries to argue like these people might have more than dilithium that might be of interest to us, of value to us. And Spock's like, they have refused the Empire. Procedure dictates we make an example of them.
And so I find it also interesting that he uses the word empire.
Uh-huh.
I guess it's a wording thing because evil means empire, but friendly means federation. Or so do we use those words when we name our call those? Our agencies.
We do talk about the Romulan Empire and the Klingon Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And they were both adversaries.
Yeah.
To the Federation.
But then, and the Federation was supposed to be this peaceful thing. But yeah.
Yeah. Earth Empire.
Starfleet Empire.
It's the Terran Empire.
Yeah.
Which we don't learn in this episode. They never call it the Terran Empire. Anyway, Kirk tells Sulu to put phasers on standby. And the bridge officers look at each other. Kirk's got to be careful here. He's not playing the part. And people are starting to get suspicious. So, yeah, Here you go. Like, here's a great example of where he's just not like, well, I want to call and talk to him again. And everybody goes, excuse me?
Since when do we call back? But at the same time, I get it, because otherwise he's going to be responsible for all these millions of deaths, and he doesn't want to give that order.
Sure. Kirk says, I have my reasons, and I'll make them clear to you in my own good time. The Hulkan leader is on the phone now, and Kirk gives him 12 hours to reconsider. But they're pretty set in their ways. 12 years or 12,000, he says, we'll never give you our dilithium because you'll use it to destroy. And I thought, wait, why is the mirror universe only the mirror universe for the Federation?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't the Hulkans be their mirror too?
The only difference I saw in the Hulkans, I don't know if you noticed that when they showed the Hulkans on the screen in the mirror universe, they looked like ill and, just they had circles under their eyes. They didn't look healthy.
That detail. Okay.
Yeah, so they looked like as if they were already suffering.
Mm.
But that was the only difference I detected with the people on the
right. They were
planet.
Still like the peaceful people that we met in the Prime universe.
Yeah.
Kirk hangs up the phone and Spock's like, 12 hours? Really? But Kirk simply announces that he's going to his quarters and asks Uhura to have McCoy and Scotty meet him there. There's a great moment here where Uhura looks at Kirk like, and me too, right? Like, I get to go to your quarters and sick bay too? Can I go?
Yeah.
And Kirk has to give her this subtle head shake.
I may not have picked that up on me, but that's cool. That's cool because
he said without saying, oh, man, I'm sorry, but you got to stay here.
Yeah, it'll look too suspicious, probably. Mm-hmm.
In the middle of all of this, Chekhov's got his hackles up and he clicks and clacks a couple of buttons on his console and gets up and walks past Sulu. And we don't right away see where he goes because Spock interrupts and is like, Captain, you've really put yourself in a sticky wicket. I'm going to have to report you now. And Kirk's like, fine, report me then. Now we see that Chekhov was heading to the turbo lift and Kirk steps in after him.
This next scene, I actually jumped. So they're going to, I forget, were they going to his quarters?
Yeah.
And so Chekhov is on the lift with him. And they didn't say anything to each other. They're just in there. And then Kirk, doors open. He walks out. Bam! Right in the fucking mouth. Somebody hits him. And I did not expect that to happen.
Nope, I didn't either. I mean, I knew something was going to happen because I picked up on that. Chekhov flipped some switches to communicate something, and then gets up and walks away. And so I thought, okay, so he's suspicious. I was thinking like maybe he's going to knife Kirk in the elevator or something.
Yeah.
I did not expect the fist to the hand to the face.
Yep. Hilarious.
So
and
good.
there's I guess Chekhov signaled to some goons and they're outside waiting for him they're basically going to try to kill him. Or this is all Chekhov, which is evil Chekhov, I guess, who wants to get rid of Kirk and make his way up to captain.
Yeah.
I guess that's how they do it in this universe, is that instead of working your way up, you kill your way up.
After the break, we get a captain's log remarking on the unusual conditions on this mirror enterprise. Officers employ private henchmen, and assassinating superiors is the way to rise in rank. In the hallway...
Star Trek fight!
One of Chekhov's goons turns on him, takes his weapon, and shooting one of the others.
Oh my god! They've killed
crewman.
You bastards!
And then Kirk grabs the last goon and throws him into the wall, and Chekhov takes him out too.
Oh my god! They've killed
crewman.
You bastards!
Kirk finally starts playing the part now. as two more goons step out of the turbo lift. They're on his side. And one of the men says, Mr. Chekhov was going to make me a chief. You could make me an officer. And Kirk's like, sure, you might even make captain someday. And this guy's like, yes, sir. And then Kirk decks him. Now that is really playing the part. This ends with Farrell, one of the goons, asking Kirk if he wants Chekhov taken to the booth. And Kirk has no idea what the booth is yet. So he's like, yeah, the booth. Sure.
He should know that by now it's not going to be good.
No.
These motherfuckers are ruthless. And of course, like if you're going to be bad to everyone in the galaxy, of course you're going to stab each other in the back too.
Yeah. Kirk, McCoy, and Scotty arrive in Kirk's quarters, and another fun little bit of levity. McCoy wipes Kirk's chin and says, what's this? And Kirk's like, it's blood. Like, aren't you the doctor? It's blood, dumbass. They have another conversation here, bringing each other up to speed on what they've learned. Kirk shares that they move up by assassination. Scotty says that Sulu is the chief of security, like the ancient Gestapo, which is fitting for the way they're all saluting each other.
Yeah.
And McCoy talks about how sickbay is a chamber of horrors with assistants betting on how long it would take the injured person to pass out.
Scotty says that the technology is pretty much the same, except for some slight variations in instrumentation. And then Kirk asks about star readings, and Scotty tells them everything's exactly where it's supposed to be, except for them.
Kirk uses the computer, which has a distinctly different voice from Majel.
Yeah, some dude.
Yeah, I don't know who the dude is. Kirk uses the computer here to work out his hypothesis, but he's also smart enough to have it locked to his or Scotty's voice authorization so that nobody else can get into it.
Yeah, because who knows if the computer's a tattletale too?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my goodness, everybody else is tattletales.
Yeah,
but
evil computer would have been a great way to play that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we get that eventually in Mirror Universe stories.
Yeah.
It just took many, many years.
So he's given him the hypothesis of like, theoretically, could an ion storm affect the transporters and basically transport us to a parallel universe? Yeah, he asked several questions, but basically in a nutshell, and the computer says, yes, affirmative, this could possibly happen.
And not only could it happen, but also it's something that could likely be artificially replicated using the ship's power. So that gives them the idea of, here's how we get home.
Right. And then, of course, he's like, we got a nice McCoyism. We have to have one for every episode. Scotty says, I'm going to need some help to do this. And Kirk helping him would be a little bit too obvious. So he tells McCoy, you go help him. And of course, McCoy's like, I'm a doctor, not an engineer.
Classic.
And Scotty's like, well, now you're an engineer.
I don't know about you, but I thought the doctor dicking around in engineering would be more suspicious than the captain dicking around in engineering.
I would too.
I think this was the wrong call.
Yeah.
McCoy wants to know exactly who these mirror versions of themselves would be.
Mm-hmm.
So Kirk pulls up his service record. He came to command the ISS Enterprise by assassinating Captain Pike.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that one hurt. And then proceeded to genocide a bunch of aliens. So not entirely different from our own Captain Kirk.
Yeah,
genociding some aliens.
We just say the reason is different, for the reason for killing someone, for genociding people.
Scotty's reviewed the floppy disks and has worked out how to make this power surge happen. But when it does, it's going to light up Sulu's console like a house on the Great Christmas Light fight.
3, 2, 1! Slay, it ain't so. Got a real sleigh. It's our sweetest season yet.
The whole house looks like it just came out of the oven.
And Kirk's like, no problem. We'll just have Uhura drop her pencil in front of Sulu and bend over to pick it up. That'll distract him. You just give the signal.
She doesn't mind being traumatized one more time.
Right? And as Scotty leaves to get back to work, McCoy asks the obvious question. If we're here, what are our counterparts doing on our Enterprise? And
I was wondering the same thing because, like, I think we're halfway into the episode, and then we haven't seen shit about what's happened to the other side.
Right.
But they flip over to the other side, and they've done what you would expect. They put them in. So Spock puts them all in the brig.
Yeah.
So I guess immediately, it's weird. They knew, and they put them right in the brig.
They figured it out real quick. Yeah. The mirrors apparently haven't figured out what's happened to them because Kirk's still talking to Spock as if he's the Spock he knows. He's like, you traitorous pig, I'll hang you up by your Vulcan ears. I'll have you all executed.
Don't you realize I don't have a goatee? I mean, hello? Has anyone noticed that?
So, and the racism is cross-dimensional, so that's great.
Yeah, that's good. Some things don't change.
Right? He's confused by the change in uniform. Spock's beard is gone. Kirk's personal guard is gone. And Kirk says, all right, Spock, whatever your game is, I'll play it. You want credits? I'll give them to you. You'll be a rich man. A command of your own? I can swing that too. He's trying to buy him off, and Spock tries to explain the whole switch places theory, but Kirk just isn't hearing it at all. He's still like, Jesus, Spock, what does it take to buy you off? Power? It's power, isn't it? I can get you power.
And Spock just, all he says is, fascinating.
Back in the mirror universe, Kirk is walking down a hallway when Spock and his bodyguard come out around the corner. And
there's another Vulcan.
Yes. That surprised me. No.
Yeah.
No. There's only one Vulcan serving in Starfleet. It's Spock.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'm sure glad you didn't get killed, Captain. I don't want to command the ship. I like my science job. But and then around the next corner, we find Chekhov in an agonizer booth, screaming his little Russian head off.
The agony booth is a most effective means of discipline.
Oh.
Poor Chekhov.
But that's interesting. That's one thing that doesn't change from both universes is that Spock never, ever wants command.
Right.
I don't know why. He just, that's not his thing.
Yeah. Hey, not everybody should be leaders. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're good at your science thing and you like doing the science thing, be the science thing person. Yeah.
Yeah.
This conversation is another one where Kirk struggles to play the part, but also not kill anyone. Spock asks if Chekhov is getting the full duration of the agony booth. And Kirk's like, I haven't decided yet. So Spock asks about the Halkans. You're going to genocide them, right? And Kirk's like, I haven't decided yet. And Spock makes it clear that like all of this unusual behavior will warrant some kind of consequences for Kirk.
Man, what a tough universe. I mean, you can't even like put off killing people without that sparking like raising eyebrows by the Empire. That's crazy.
Again, not playing the part very well. Kirk asks Spock if he thinks they should genocide the Halkans, and Spock's like, terror must be maintained or the Empire is doomed. It is the logic of history. And Kirk tries to logic through to Spock, saying, conquest is easy, control is not. Maybe we're in over our heads here? But Spock's not buying it. And while Spock says he doesn't threaten, but merely states facts, there's clearly some threats made between them.
Right.
As Kirk says, you would find me a formidable enemy. And Spock says, I trust that you're aware of the reverse. It's very threatening.
Yes, very. But at the same time, he is stating facts because this is how they operate and this is how they've always operated. And so when he says terror must be maintained, basically he's saying, well, we've been doing this forever. We can't just stop now.
Yeah.
Because this would cause our enemies, of which I know they've made enemies.
Oh, yeah.
To say, oh, they're showing weakness and then attack. So it's not, but I really appreciate that it's not really Spock being evil. It's Spock being logical in that moment, in that universe or whatever.
Right. And that's one of the things that doesn't change between universes is Spock's logical nature. After Spock leaves, Kirk tells Farrell to release Chekhov and confine him to quarters. In another hallway, Scotty approaches a guard stationed outside engineering, and as they Hitler salute each other, McCoy slips up from behind the guard and hits him with a hypo spray, which he says should keep him out for about 6 hours. They climb up a ladder to the upper level of engineering, and they're sneaking around a bit. You know, the main engineering floor is like crawling with engineers. There were so many extras in that shot.
I know. I was like, I never see this many people in
Never.
engineering. It's always, first, they normally get the wide shot anyway. And then 2, they never have these many people.
No.
It's always like 1 or 2 people.
Meanwhile, Kirk rounds a corner into his quarters after Hitler saluting the guard, and he finds this week's scantily clad eye candy laying in his bed. This is Marlena, and Kirk is surprised to see someone in his bed.
Right. And I guess she's his woman or whatever. I didn't get the impression she was an actual crew member. She was more like just his plaything, I guess.
I think later I got the impression she was part of the crew because she says something about, I have my rank, don't I?
Oh,
Something
that's
like
right.
that.
Okay. I do remember that.
She pulls a couple drinks out from the food dispenser and says, "Oh my God, the day I've had, but not as bad as yours. I heard about the whole Chekhov thing. You got lucky. I'm surprised you could be caught off guard that way." And Kirk admits to being preoccupied. Why would you trust this woman?
Because
that you don't know and don't know nothing about.
Because he's weak. He's thinking with his bones. He's thinking with his bones. He sees a pretty woman and suddenly he starts vomiting information. Shut the fuck up.
She's like, "You're still in trouble with Starfleet Command, huh? I don't know what you're up to, but it must be a really grand scheme. Admiral, the cabinet itself?" And Kirk's like, "Higher than that if I'm successful."
You got to play along, yeah.
Yeah. She seems to really like this idea, drunk on the power of her man, but she also wants to know what he's up to. And as she's talking about being the woman of Caesar, they kiss. This kiss is quickly interrupted, though, by the phone ringing. Spock's on the line. He's got instructions from Starfleet Command, and even telling Kirk about it is against the rules big time.
So here he is violating rules too, because he's about to tell him, "Hey, by the way, don't say anything. Don't tell anyone I told you this, but I'm supposed to kill you."
It makes me wonder if Spock didn't have his suspicions all the way back to this point.
It had to, because knowing Spock, he's logical.
He's going to figure it out quickly.
Things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's basically says, "I'm supposed to kill you.
You're supposed to kill the Halkans. If you don't kill the Halkans, I'm supposed to kill you.
Yeah.
Take command and genocide the Halkans myself." Captain's log. Kirk doesn't even know what day it is. Marlena raises her glass and toasts Spock, the only man aboard with the decency to warn Kirk, and he'll die for it. But Kirk makes it clear that he has no intention of killing the Halkans or Spock or anyone. Again, why would you let all of this fly with someone you don't know you can trust?
Again, thinking with his phaser. Yeah.
Marlena asks if Kirk wants to activate the Tantalus field, whatever the fuck that is. And
I swear I've heard of that before, and I meant to look that up. Tantalus field or something. Yeah.
There was... Tantalus was a planet. Tantalus is in Greek mythology. Jesus Christ. Everything comes back to Greeks and Romans.
Well, okay, so there was a planet on Dagger
of the Mind, yes.
Tantalus 5.
That's where I remember it from.
I think that was what I was thinking of. Other than that, I don't
think the Tantalus penal colony.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But maybe it was something to do with the Tantalus because it did some wacky shit to people.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Interesting. Anyway, sorry, tangent.
So Kirk's playing along now at this point. Apparently, this Tantalus field device was stolen from some alien scientist. And she flips a switch on this little artwork thing on the wall, and it kind of raises up and reveals the 4-inch portable TV I had in 1980.
No, and some buttons.
She flips a few more switches and Spock appears on screen. So this device allows them to monitor people, but also kill them with a push of a button.
her finger was hovering over the button to basically obliterate Spock, and Kirk's like, no.
He grabs her arm and it's like, turn it off. At first, I thought Marlena was really onto him, but she quickly pivots to like, oh, right, all part of your grand scheme to exponential power gains or whatever, right?
Yeah. I was really, really suspicious too, because I thought maybe she's just a spy, because if everybody else is out to get him, maybe she is too. And he's vomiting all this information, and she's gonna use it against him later. But yeah, so I didn't really know what to think of her at that point.
Yeah. She asks, where does Marlena fit into all of this?
What about me?
What about me? And Kirk says, how does Marlena want to fit in? And she's like, I was kind of hoping you'd fit inside me.
Yeah.
Oh my.
And she takes her drink and seductively walks into the other room. Finally alone, Kirk calls up Scotty and he's like, yo, we got to get out of here in like 3 hours or Spock's going to kill me. And Scotty's like, it's worse than that, laddie. The close connection between these universes is drifting apart. We've actually only got 30 minutes to leave or we'll be stuck here forever. And that's convenient because there's about 30 minutes left in the episode.
I wonder if they planned that. Scotty needs to get Kirk to the transporter room in 10 minutes and free up the board so that Scott can lock in the coordinates or whatever. So Kirk's like, after he leaves the transporter room, he'll meet Scotty and McCoy in sickbay. And again, they were like, what about Uhura?
Right.
Like, stop forgetting about her. But I think Spock at some point is like, something's going on here. So he gets curious about like computer activity, and he asks the computer about it, the dude computer about it.
The dude pewter.
Dude pewter. And the dude pewter says that Kirk and Scotty are doing some kind of classified security research under Kirk's voice index. So Spock is like, okay, what the fuck's going on? And then Spock gets a beep on his computer, and then he activates it, and then he's like, Sulu, why are you monitoring my communication?
Do you remember when we all had 3 phones in the house? One in the kitchen, one, in the living room, and one upstairs or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And all 3 phones could be in use at the same time, and you could all talk, hear each other talking. That's what this reminded me of.
Was it back in the 80s? Was it like Party Line in the neighborhood?
Yeah, before that even. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sulu's calling, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I noticed some unusual use of the computer, and I was about to inform you." And Sulu's like, "Listen, we all know what Starfleet's orders were, and the captain surely knows too. He's probably trying to figure out a way to escape or some kind of defense." And Spock's like, "Well, that's my problem." But Sulu's concerned that if Spock doesn't take action, he's next in line. And he says Captain Kirk's enemies have a tendency to disappear. So while Sulu seems to like the idea of being one step closer to Captain himself, Spock warns that he's like, look, I don't want command, but I will do what's required of me. And if Sulu kills Spock to take command, Spock's loyal operatives would avenge his death. And he warns some of them are Vulcans. So apparently Vulcans in this universe are still logical somehow, but also like brutal.
Well, they've always been like efficient killers, I guess. I don't know, but they're always been a little bit feared, but it's a vicious circle. It's like, well, if I kill him, then they're going to come after me, and then blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, you can't, it's a hard way to live, but they are just vicious and always stabbing each other in the back.
It's a wonder the species survives at all in a world like that.
Yeah.
Back in Kirk's quarters, Marlena reappears from the other room, and she's taken off her crop top uniform in favor of some colorful drapey loungewear again.
Caftan, something or other.
And she's trying to seduce him, but admits that she's out of practice. What with being a working woman. This is where she talked about being an officer.
She does have a job.
She's like, look, I have a job. How can I be expected to work all day and then come home and cook, clean, and be a sex fiend for her man? So 1960s.
'Cause I'm a woman. I can bring home the bacon.
Fry it up in a pan. And never let you forget you're a man.
Kirk tells her he's never seen perfection, but she comes closer than any other woman. And she says, "Oh, I remember when you used to talk to me that way." And it reminded me of just like these old married, the old long time married couples that are just on each other's nerves all the time. And, things just aren't the way it used to be.
The man is neglecting her and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
She's trying to get attention.
And Kirk says, "I still do talk that way." So Marlena lays back on the bed and spreads her legs and says, "Prove it."
Oh my.
He's like, gotta go.
Yeah, Kirk's like, I gotta go.
So she's angry.
She's like, "It's always fucking work with you."
Well, he's a captain of the starship, but yeah. He's a murderous one at that. And so she's thinking, well, he wants it to be over. And then she's like, well, that's okay. Someone else will take me. And she mentions Commander Kenner. She's like, he'll take me. And then she's ready to just pack her shit and move out of his cabin. And he says, well, that's not necessary. That's not what I was saying. She's demanding a transfer, saying that this is humiliating to her. And on another ship, she could at least hunt for fresh meat. She's basically, we're feeling sorry for her, but she's basically a fucking user, right? She's just using whatever she can, however she can rise up to the top, so don't feel sorry for her.
So she's ready to break the whole thing off, transfer to another ship, find another captain to fuck. But Kirk talks her off the ledge, and they're back to long, passionate kissing again as the orchestra crescendos. And as they pull apart, she's like, "Wow, you haven't kissed me like that in a long time. Who even are you?"
Like, that other Kirk must have been a total ass.
Right? And she's like, Who are you? Mercy to the Halkins, mercy to Spock, mercy to me. Am I your woman?" And he responds, "You're the captain's woman until he says you're not." And that gave me some 50 Shades of Grey vibes too.
Yeah, for sure. So he leaves, but she goes and turns on the Tantalus thing and watches him. I wonder was she contemplating like killing him, or did she just want to watch him? I don't know.
It makes me wonder, like, was she like Spock in that she had kind of figured out some suspicions about this isn't the same captain that I know, and so maybe I'll follow him and see if what the hell's going on around here. She's monitoring as Kirk goes down a hall and enters the turbo lift, and he calls up Uhura and gives her a heads up that Scotty should be signaling soon. And that signal comes through pretty quickly after they hang up, as Scotty places some device up inside the Jeffries tube. Uhura's distraction comes in the form of her throwing herself at Sulu.
Oh, I feel bad for her because I was like, I don't want her to have to do this, but she's up to distract Sulu so that he doesn't look at his panel, because something's supposed to light up when they do that.
Mm-hmm.
So she just kind of slinks over to Sulu, and
she suggests as a game of cat and mouse. She says, "You're really not good at this, Sulu, and maybe that's because you're actually gay IRL. But how it works is I protest and you come back."
So she's like, you weren't very persistent.
Yeah.
He's not playing the game.
And Sulu's loving this turn of events, and he wraps his arms around her waist. Meanwhile, his console beeps and lights up, but he's too distracted by Uhura to notice.
And everybody's watching. Everybody on the bridge.
Oh, yeah, they're putting on a good show.
Mm-hmm.
He's moving in on her, and she says, "Well, of course, now is not a good time." And he's like, "I'm hard. It's a good time."
What are they going to do right there on the bridge, though?
Fucking Uhura comes to life here. She pulls back and is like, "Oopsie, I changed my mind again." And
I'm holding a knife.
Yeah, Sulu's like, "You take a lot of chances." Uhura whips out her dagger and like a fucking boss and shuts him down. She backs off to the turbo lift and hands her stylus to one of the red shirts and tells him to take over. This was just the greatest, right? Like, because they have presented her, including in this episode, as kind of meek and unsure of herself. And in this scene, she just comes into it.
I know. And I'm hoping like back then that I hope that people thought of her as badass as she was, because I think she's amazing.
Yeah. It reads that way to me on the rewatch. I'm just like, fuck, I didn't know Uhura was such a badass.
Yeah.
And I'm loving it.
So she leaves the bridge and she contacts Scotty on their private channel, and she's headed for sickbay. But then in the transporter room, Kirk is trying to unlock the controls of the transporter, and fucking Spock walks in and catches him.
Kirk has been acting very atypically, illogically, since returning from the planet, and Spock wants to know why. And Kirk, every time Spock says something, he's like, well, go on then, shoot me. 2 or 3 times in this scene. Why don't you just shoot me then, Spock?
Because he's saying that because he really doesn't think Spock will do it.
No.
This Spock will do it.
This Spock would do it. Mirror Spock gets a great zinger in on McCoy when he's not around to hear it. Spock decided that Kirk won't tell him what's going on because he's too disciplined, but he says, Dr. McCoy has a plenitude of human weakness, sentimental, soft.
Oh, thank you. I love it. I really like this Spock. Because
Right?
he does not mince words.
No, he doesn't hold back.
Insulting McCoy, and he deserves every bit of it.
So Spock escorts Kirk down to sickbay, where he's actually surprised to find the entire landing party gathered together.
Star Trek fight! This was such a good fight. I mean...
This was a good one. I agree.
Spock was taking out everybody, even Uhura.
Yeah, they keep taking runs at him, and Spock's just like flipping people over his back and knocking them through, and it was great. So good.
Finally, I don't know what this thing was, like a vase or a skull.
It looked like a skull. I think it was a skull.
So Uhura, and it was ceramic, like easily shattered, but for some reason she hands that to Kirk, and he hits Spock over the head, and that is what does it? That is what knocks him out?
That's what knocks him out? Yeah. Okay. Scotty says there's about 15 minutes on the clock before the ability to return to their universe is gone. But McCoy's ethics as a doctor, or maybe even as a person, prevent him from leaving Spock to die.
He's just hit on the head. I mean...
That's what I thought, too. I thought, he's dying? I don't believe that. So they hoist him up on a bio bed, and McCoy works his medical magic while Scotty keeps yelling about how little time they have left. Cut to Marlena, who has been watching this the whole time on the Tantalus monitor.
Mm-hmm.
So she knows what's going on now. Kirk gives McCoy the minute he needs to save Spock, but then Sulu and his security goons roll in, and Sulu gets a little evil monologue while he waves his dagger around.
So to speak.
Yeah. He's going to carry out Spock's orders to kill Kirk and make it look like Kirk killed Spock in the struggle. Bada bing, bada boom, Captain Sulu.
They're about to get ready to fight Sulu and his henchmen. But then suddenly, Sulu's dudes start disappearing.
Oh my god! They've killed
crewman.
You bastards!
One by one.
Oh my god! They've killed
crewman.
You bastards!
And I'm like, oh, she's actually orchestrating this, and she's making them disappear.
She leaves Sulu, though. For some reason, she leaves Sulu behind.
Well, because he's the main character.
Right, of course. Yeah. Yeah, he's on the cast list. It works, though. Kirk is easily able to karate chop Sulu's dagger away and then him into submission. 10 minutes on the clock, McCoy tells them to go to the transporter room without him, and he'll come along shortly because he's got to save Mirror Spock.
Since when did he become so caring and about Spock?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's weird. It was very uncharacteristic of him.
Everybody leaves, and McCoy hits Spock with a hypo that revives him pretty quickly. And Spock jumps out of this biobed and grabs McCoy by the wrist and slow walks him back up against a wall. And he's like, "Why did the captain let me live?" And he puts his hand on McCoy's face and says,
"Remember."
And then we spend the next hour and 45 minutes trying to get Spock's fucking Katra back into his body again.
Now he does the mind meld thing and fucking sucks all the information he needs to know out of McCoy.
Do you think this choice to mind meld was because Spock wouldn't trust McCoy if he just told him the truth about them?
I don't know.
Because I think Spock was already putting the pieces together, and that would have just confirmed it.
Yeah, and he stayed behind to actually make sure he was okay. But I don't know.
Or did he think that McCoy wouldn't tell him anything, or lie to him, or whatever? I don't know.
It could be just the way that they do things in that universe is like nobody can be trusted.
Right, that's true. That's true. Meanwhile, our heroes appear in the transporter room, and Marlena is there waiting for them. And Scotty starts to rush her, but Kirk kind of holds him back and says, "A friend, you saved us back at sickbay with the Tantalus field." Twist at the end, Marlena wants to go with them. Take me with you. And Kirk's argument for not taking her, I thought this was kind of weak. It wasn't about like upsetting the normal course of events in either universe or whatever. Mm-hmm. It was just, oh, well, we've configured this thing for 4 people. So if we try to do 5, it might kill us.
I mean, that it kind of makes sense, though. But at the same time, he could have used the whole paradox messing with not the timeline,
the normal order of things or whatever. Yeah.
It could have created a fracture in space time. I don't know.
And she's like under her breath. She's like, 4, Kirk, Scott, Uhura. There's only 3 of you. And Kirk's like, oh, we've got one more coming. We're waiting. We're waiting for our buddy McCoy. She pulls her phaser on him, and Kirk says, if you kill us, you'll still stay. So, what good would killing us do? It's not going to get you to our universe.
Yeah, but yay, Uhura to the rescue again.
Another great action moment, yes.
I love that she's like a proper fucking badass superhero. She grabs Marlena, disarms her, takes the phaser from her.
Yeah, that was so good. I wish I had gotten this Uhura on any of the rewatches that I'd done before.
I don't think I did either. I didn't get.
I love it.
I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it too, and
so
I'm
great.
glad we're doing this because it wasn't like when we were talking with Rod, we were like, there's just some things that it just didn't dawn on us.
Yeah. Until you watch it,
and at the time, until now.
Kirk steps out into the hallway to look for McCoy, and suddenly the transporter power has been cut.
I'm like, fuck.
We're almost out of time. McCoy's
They're
not there. And the workaround that they need to do to make the transporter work would require one of them to stay behind and operate it manually. And of course, Scotty volunteers right away because that's who Scotty is.
Yeah.
But Kirk orders everyone onto the transporter and that he's gonna be the one to stay behind and do it. And Marlena's like, what about me?
Bitch, you staying too.
Yeah,
you never was going.
Always what about me with this one. Spock arrives just in time with McCoy and confirms that he cut the power in order to get McCoy to the transporter room before they beamed away without him.
Oh, he's so nice.
Spock in both universes.
I know. I fucking love that dude.
He calls up engineering and has power restored and says, you must return to your universe and I must have my captain back. Spock is going to operate the transporter. But in the 2 minutes and 10 seconds they have left, Kirk's going to try to appeal to Spock's logic. He asks, how long before the Halkan prediction of galactic revolt is realized? And Spock says, approximately 240 years. And I thought, where the hell did this come from? Was there any indication that they were going to like fight back at all in this universe? Nobody ever said like, hey, one of these days, they're going to rise up and defeat the Empire, which is basically what he's saying here.
Yeah, but how would Spock know? Is he just how would he know in exactly 240 years?
Right.
He can't. Like, I know he's smart, but he can't fucking tell the future. So how did he know that?
Right.
So then Kirk is like, Spock, it would be illogical of you then to continue serving the Empire if you know it's going to collapse.
Kirk's trying to get Spock to take command of this Enterprise and find a logical reason to not kill the Halkans. Kirk says the illogic of waste Mr. Spock, the waste of lives, potential, resources, time. I submit to you that your empire is illogical because it cannot endure. I submit that you are illogical to be a willing part of it. If change is inevitable, predictable, beneficial, doesn't logic demand that you be a part of it? So he's really trying to like play logic fight with Spock.
Yeah, like he's going to overload like he did the Nomad. He's going to just like send Spock
talk him into circles.
A loop.
Yeah. Scotty interjects a time or two here, like, come on, Jim, get on the transporter pad. Time's ticking. Spock seems to accept Kirk's arguments, but mentions that he would also need the power. Even if I agree with you, you know, about all this killing or whatever, like, I'm just one dude. What can I do about it, right?
They're going to kill him, you know, if he doesn't comply.
Yeah. And Kirk shares a little secret with Spock, a secret mirror Kirk has been keeping from him, the Tantalus field. And Spock's like, oh, really?
And by telling him that, though, you know, he's kind of messed up.
Yeah.
So if Spock was evil and the new Kirk gets back, Kirk is dead.
Done. Yep, he's done for.
He's lost his woman because I think Kirk is just going to go ahead and take Marlena. So now he's got a woman to give away and the Tantalus thing to give away. And so what has he just done? We don't know.
One last meaningful touch of Marlena's hand, and Kirk joins the rest on the transporter pad, and Spock beams them away. We get another horizontal flip-flop transition again, and they materialize back on the Enterprise Prime, looking quite relieved, and Spock welcomes them home. And our button on the episode, we're back on the bridge. KSM are gathered around for chair chat, and Spock says the mirror counterparts were easy to identify because it was far easier for you as civilized men to behave like barbarians than it was for barbarians to behave like civilized men. And I thought that was a good line.
Yeah.
This chair chat stuff is a lot more formulaic than I remembered too. Like I'm too lazy, but I almost want to go back because not every episode ends like this, but almost every episode does. And I'd be interested to know like what percentage of episode ends with KSM around the chair for chair chat.
Chair chat. Yeah.
McCoy gets another jab in here. He says to Kirk, Jim, I think I liked him better with a beard. Gave him character. Of course, almost any change would be a distinct improvement.
Asshole.
What a dick. And Kirk says, what worries me is the easy way his counterpart fit into that other universe. I always thought Spock was a bit of a pirate at heart. And Spock says, indeed, gentlemen. May I point out that I had an opportunity to observe your counterparts here quite closely. They were brutal, savage, unprincipled, uncivilized, treacherous, in every way splendid examples of Homo sapiens, the very flower of humanity. I found them quite refreshing.
Kirk's like, I think we've been insulted.
So good. And the turbo lift doors open, and who should step out? Marlena Moreau. I don't know if you caught this, but as she stepped out of the turbo lift, McCoy's line of sight had to have been right at her ass.
No, I didn't. I know they all looked at her.
Yeah.
Because
he did that look down, side look down thing.
Oh, McCoy. But like they were like surprised to see her, and it turns out that she just got there like a few weeks ago, so that's why no one knew her. But she gives him like the clipboard or whatever they use. So he's like, what's your name? Like he didn't know her name.
Mm-hmm. And Spock calls him out. Spock's like, you've seen her before, Captain? And Kirk's like, not exactly. She just seemed like a nice girl, again, because they're girls. I think we could become friends. It's possible. And Spock raises an eyebrow, and Kirk gets out of his chair and walks down next to Marlena and starts chatting her up. Yeah.
They pull the camera away, for the wide shot.
Waste no time.
No.
He's like, listen, I know what you can do with your mouth.
Oh my.
You don't know that I know what you can do with your mouth.
Oh, it's too funny.
Boy, I'm sure glad that's over with.
I'm happy the affair is over.
Me too.
A most annoying, emotional episode.
Yeah, but you know, I learned something today.
When dreams become more important than reality, you give up travel, building, creating.
One jealous god, if all this makes a god.
By sparing your helpless enemy, who surely would have destroyed you, you demonstrated the advanced trait of mercy.
Frankly, I was rather dismayed by your use of the term half-breed. You must admit, it is an unsophisticated expression.
I have no idea what the theme was on this episode. I don't know about you.
I think for me, and we've remarked on this show about like several times now, we've had non-humans point out how barbaric humans are or can be. And then we see our heroes kind of defend their actions over and over. So this idea of the mirror universe showing what humanity might be if we didn't have reason and compassion and empathy and all of those humanist values. Like, yes, we aren't great all the time, but those guardrails are kind of necessary to keep us from turning into that.
Right. That's true. And maybe I do love the fact that Spock was essentially the same in each universe. And it is probably because he's the most logical and unemotional. So
I would expect his mirror to be the least logical and the most emotional. I would expect him to be a complete opposite.
Good point, though. Good point. Because, they didn't change that.
There seemed to be no logic or reason in how they determined who would change and how much. And, some people were their polar opposites and others weren't.
And maybe for some reason they chose to make logic the thing that is constant. And maybe that's a message that says, regardless of what is happening, if you have logic, then maybe you're neither good or bad, but you just logic yourself into a situation. I don't know. I'm literally making this up on the fly, but they could have made him the exact opposite, which is irrational, murderous.
Right.
Can't be rational, but maybe they did that for a reason, because logic is always, if logic is constant, then there's hope, maybe.
Right.
Because they left that other universe with the alternate Spock thinking, okay, maybe we should change this. So
right.
I don't know.
Right.
So I felt like they left that universe with a different trajectory. Who knows? But I didn't have it wasn't easy to come up with this.
Yeah, no, this one was difficult for me too, other than, just that, like, the light and the dark, the day and the night, the opposite, that opposite theme that they do from time to time, the good and the evil, right?
Yeah. What would I do if I met my evil me?
Right.
Who's to say I'm not evil right now? And then I might meet a nice me. I don't know.
Do we need to get out the shovels and honor any of our crewmen this week?
And I need to write something really quick because I lost count. There were a bunch of henchmen. It was all in the alternate universe. So does that really count?
Oh, you could make a very good argument for that doesn't count.
I would say that doesn't count because no one died.
What a great way to get out of not having written something.
I
well
know,
done. Well done.
You're welcome.
Oh, that was a good one. Very good.
I would say this doesn't count. So they're not getting any mad bars from me.
There you go. Well, then we need to take a moment to pay the bills.
Let's get right to business.
Fine, I'm authorized to pay an equitable price. Federation has invested a great deal of money in our training. They're about due for a small return.
Listen, we pay off percentages. We're entitled to a little service for our money, huh?
Is this the way your citizens do business? Their right of petition?
They pay their percentages and the boss takes care of them.
Is there anything else?
There are a lot of great ways to help support the show. One of the free ways to do that is to leave us a review wherever you listen to Humanist Trek. We're really trying to get that going. We have a few ratings. I know the Apple reviews that we haven't had any. I haven't checked the others lately. But anyway, flood us. Take out my email server with your ratings and reviews. One of the best ways to support us, of course, is to give us some of your hard-earned Federation credits by becoming a patron of the show. Patrons get early access to every episode, merchandise at various levels, and the joy of knowing you're keeping us on the air. We also want to thank our founding admirals. Special thanks to Russell, Allie, Peter, and Sarah. Thank you all so much. Thank you all to all of our patrons for supporting us.
Thank you, patrons.
So head on over to patreon.com/humanisttrek. Pledge as little as $3 a month. It really does go a long way to supporting this show.
I assume you're loitering around here to learn what efficiency rating I plan to give your cadets.
Trainees, to the briefing room. Is that all you gotta say? What about my performance?
Aren't you dead?
I don't believe this was a fair test of my command abilities. There was no way to win.
There's no correct resolution. It's a test of character.
Now, what is that supposed to mean?
I am understandably curious.
May I ask you a question?
Who's been holding up the damn elevator?
All right, it's time to bring Becca back in for the answer to last week's Starfleet Academy Cadet Challenge. Last week, you asked us.
Completion of the filming of this episode was delayed and ultimately took a whole month instead of the typical 6 days. What caused the delay?
All right, and Allie said somebody got hurt, like maybe they broke something. And I said Shatner had to grow out his beard.
Sorry.
What's the answer?
You're wrong.
Oh, man.
You're both wrong.
No.
Yeah.
Incorrect.
Because Shatner didn't have any facial hair, but Spock did. But it looked like it was stuck on, so I don't think.
Yeah, and it was interesting that I said that too, because like it seemed like it like nobody. It was like it was Spock, and that right. Sulu didn't have a beard, did he? No.
Well, the landing party.
He had the scar, right? And all the other people on the bridge, none of them, like they were all anyway. What's the right answer?
After filming began, Barbara Luna was diagnosed with strep throat.
Oh,
the
shit.
script called for Captain Kirk to kiss her. To avoid putting Shatner at risk of becoming infected, they had to postpone the kissing scene for 3 weeks until she was medically cleared.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow. And we know they were having trouble like getting shit done on time as it was. So that's a big deal. Damn. Okay, next week we'll be reviewing Star Trek The Original Series, Season 2, Episode 5, The Apple. The crew discovers a paradise controlled by computer. Hold the fuck on. We've seen this twice already.
A couple of times,
Yeah. I don't remember this one. The Apple, like by name. And remember, I collected the old VHS when it was like 1 or 2 episodes per VHS tape. So I've been through the episode titles many, many years, and I don't remember the Apple. Couldn't tell you.
Don't remember.
No.
But how different can it be from the other two
Right.
that we've seen already? So.
Right. Okay. What's our question for the Apple?
Well, there is something different. In this episode, what is different about the landing party chosen for this episode?
Different from what?
Any other episode that has a landing party.
Spock didn't go with them. He always goes. Did Uhura go? Uhura, she did go once or twice already.
I think, man, if not Uhura specifically, maybe it's like aside from Kirk and Spock and McCoy, or like the main 3, all of the other away team people were women.
No, well, you know what? Maybe it's Eden. Because the apple and then the whole biblical reference, maybe that's what it was. I don't know, man. That sounds good. I'll take that one.
Did we give you an answer?
Not the one I was looking for, but yeah, you gave me some answers.
Shit. Well, join us next week to find out how wrong we were.
Yeah.
And if you want to play along, go to your nearest social media, shoot out your answer to us, use the hashtag Starfleet Challenge, and we'll pick a winner. Don't answer what we answered because we wrong. All right, next week on Humanist Trek, Star Trek The Original Series, Season 2, Episode 5, The Apple.
Live long and prosper.
Kapla.
Humanist Trek is available wherever you replicate your podcast. Follow us on all the social medias at Humanist Trek. Become a patron at patreon.com/humanisttrek. Open hailing frequencies to podcast@humanisttrek.com and visit our website, humanisttrek.com. Humanist Trek is a production of Sarah Austin Media.